video that we did, or the previous video, I did a little brush warm-up, and I showed you how to open the Brusho pots and use push pins to color coordinate them as a clever way to store them and have access. In this video, we're going to do a dry into wet, whereas in the first video we did wet into dry. So I'm going to put down some clear water and we're going to sprinkle some Brusho into it, and I'm going to show you how to incorporate Brusho into your regular art pieces. So the first thing I always do when I start a painting is I will get my Brusho powder ready to apply before I put the water on. That way I don't have to scramble once I've got my water, clear water all down, to get the colors, the right colors out, and make sure that I've got the selection that I want and the amount that I want. Now here's the very important part of the way that I've learned to do Brusho. It's very difficult to control the powder because the powder can go anywhere. It's much easier to control the water. So by putting the water where we want the colors to be, you can get amazing effects. So to start this painting out, I'm going to simply put the water into the flowers. But before I do that, I want to make sure and put the powder on some scratch papers so that I can deliver it gently into the painting. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they first start doing Brusho is they take the canister and they just shake it all over their painting, and it can just obliterate it. It's too much. These pigments are very, very concentrated, and it's easy to overwhelm your painting. So by putting the powder onto scratch paper first, not only does it allow you to deliver the particles gently, more gently, but you can also mix the colors on the paper dry, just like you would mix into wet pots with regular paint, and you can get more effects. This is called a Jurassic Park. It's a real iris, and my friend Danny, thank you for this photo. And so we're going to paint this today, and the first thing I'm going to do is put some blue and some violet particles onto this piece of scratch paper. And notice I'm not using a whole lot. I like to think of Brusho is like the ghost chilies.
Yikes!
A little bit of this goes a long, long ways, and it really doesn't take much. And it's very easy to overwhelm your painting with too much paint. I highly recommend that you experiment with these before you work on your drawings that you spend a lot of time on. So now that I've got my powders ready, I'm going to set these aside for a moment. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to, as I'm putting the water down, once my water's on there and it's already going to be drying, I don't want to have to worry about which color I'm going to reach for and how much I'm going to get ready to put in. So by having my colors all ready to be delivered, once I put the water in, I simply have to put the paint in. So now we're just going to apply some nice clear water. So I'm going to wet all these areas. And I'm going to start out using a lot of water at first, because by the time I get to the end of this, the water that I'm putting down now will be drying up quite a bit. You can put Brusho down, and if you paint into it with your brush, you can get some beautiful effects, but it's different than just putting the clear water down and letting the particles sit in it and move on their own. So you get an undisturbed look by doing it this way. And I'm really just trying to get a good amount of water down here. So you want to make sure that you don't have any dry spots. I'll never forget the first time I saw Brusho at a demo at the OSA in Portland. On Thursday nights, the owner of a local art store had gone to a trade show and came back with some neat new things to share with us. And the first time I saw him deliver the particles into some water, first time I saw Brusho literally explode onto the paper, I was hooked. And again, I'm just trying to get every little bit of this wet, make sure I got some good coverage. And you can see why I used a lot of water, because some of the first areas that I started with are getting dry now. You know, Brusho's been around for almost 40 years in Europe. This is new to the US, and it's fun to see what US artists are going to do with it. We're kind of inventing our own techniques as we go. And how fun is it that there's a new watercolor or a new water media out there for us to play with and make our own. So it looks like I got a pretty good amount of water everywhere where I want it to be. And so now, because I took a moment to put my Brusho onto the scratch paper, I'm able to just deliver this instantly into here without reaching and worrying about it. And let's see what happens. Oh my, how fun is that? And you can see I'm not using a whole lot. Again, these are like chili peppers. A little of this goes a long way. And by delivering it this way, I can control the powder and the amount going on and not just obliterate my drawing or my painting. Now there's going to be some ambient crystals left over. You can keep a can of aerosol, air spray, but I like to just go like this and blow the crystals back into the wet spots. And now we can simply let this dry. There's a few little tiny areas, and I can gently touch this, but again, if I brush into this too much, it'll look labored, and I don't want to get that kind of a painting. You can do that, and you can even add values, but this way keeps it nice and open and nice and loose. So we're going to let that dry, and we'll come back and we'll do the next part. Okay, so we've got the purple leaves done, the flowers, and so now we're going to do the yellow parts. Same sort of thing. I'm going to just use nice clear water because, again, much easier to control the water than it is the particles or the powder. And I'm going to put a good amount right down here. Again, using the brush, holding the brush more towards the end, using a good amount of water to start out with, because we know this is going to dry a little bit before we get all the other flowers done. And remember, I took a moment before I started this to put some particles or some Brusho powder on a piece of scratch paper so that it would be all ready to deliver, so when I got done putting my water on, I wouldn't have to scramble to figure out which color I wanted and how much and how I wanted to blend it. And the yellow we're using is lemon and gamboge, two of the yellow colors. One thing I'll say about Brusho, and this is really fun, and you'll find even the black Brusho, if you were to sprinkle it on a piece of white paper and just spray it with water, you'll see at least 15 different colors in it. It's got reds and purples and blues and oranges, just universes of color, because every color in their product line has analogous and complementary colors added into it. So you never have to worry about varying your color. The Brusho does it for you. The more you let the paint do its thing and work its magic, the better it is. Watercolor can be challenging, but one of its great gifts is it does a lot of the magic for you if you let it. And it's really all you have to do is step back and let it. So we got this all wet now. I'm going to reach over here and get my all ready to go powder. And just like before, I'm going to very gently tap this and deliver these wonderful yellow crystals into the wetted paper. This is dry into wet, just like you do with tube paints. All right, and we'll let that work for a little bit. And you can already see the colors start to move around a little bit. And notice all the different colors. We've got reds and oranges, lots of lemons, sunburst. As soon as that's dry, we'll come back and we'll start doing the tube paint part of this, because I believe in mixing the colors together, just hedging my bets a little bit.